Alright, welcome to the PWC Season 12 Draft Breakdown for your reigning Origin Division champions, the Iowa City Night Eyes. This is my first time doing a recorded draft breakdown, but I decided no time's like the present with my move up to the greasiest division. I'm pretty excited about this team. Only one returning member from this last year's championship team, but it's fun to try out new mons. Using the same ones would get dull, and that's not why we're here. But let's get started with our first mon. My signature, which if you don't know what a signature is, the way it works here in the Pokemon World Circuit, you draft one low-tier Pokemon in the first round that's given the ability to freely terrestrialize. However, as they are your signature Pokemon, they must also come to every match. So without further ado, my signature for this year, Houndoom. Now, I'm honestly really excited about Houndoom. It's one of the lower tier of the available signature mons. Signature mons can go from 6 points down to 1, and Houndoom is in the 4-point tier, which is tied for the lowest in my division, along with another team who chose Claydol. However, I feel like Houndoom, with the ability to terrestrialize, is actually going to become a really very valuable asset to this team. You know, Dark Fire type is really good offensive type, and combined with the stats here, we got 110 special attack. With that base stat, you know, you're going to get some good hits, and with 95 speed too, it's a pretty fast mon. It's not, you know, it's nothing super crazy, but, you know, it's a good special attacker. The bulk is not great, as should be expected. Only a 75 base HP, 50 defense, and 80 special defense, but honestly, with Flash Fire giving you immunity to fire, Dark is giving you immunity to that Psychic, and of course you have the ability to terrestrialize to just take some more hits. I think this thing is going to do way more than what the point total says, especially with the ability. Like, it's slept on. It's a very forgotten Pokemon, honestly. I forget about it a lot. When I saw it in there, I was like, I gotta use it because I forget about how this thing can actually do what it wants to do. I see myself running some specs on it, Scarf on it, Assault Vest could be a fun one, you know, to just boost up that special defense, because it could be still pretty bulky in the special defense side, you know. Got Leftovers, Life Orb, all of the standard stuff. Black Glasses, Charcoal. There's so many different options for what I can run on it. You know, we're looking at probably Fire Blast, Flamethrower, your standard fare, Overheat in there. But it's also got some like interesting moves. Of course, Terra Blast is gonna be nice, but you got that Sludge Bomb in there to take down opposing fairy types that may be switching in on you. You know, you got Burning Jealousy if you want to counter those people who run the setup sweepers. You know, you got Fire Spin if you want to trap. There's some good stuff down here that just people don't even look at. Solar Beam in the Sun, which, spoilers, I may or may not have drafted a bit of Sun. Last year I worked on a Hail team centered around Abomasnow, and while I wasn't planning on doing a Sun team, I ended up looking a little more into that Sun direction as it went on. So that Solar Beam could definitely be coming in very useful against the water type switch into this Houndoom. On top of that, 90 base attack is not bad. 90 base attack is a lot better than, you know, people give it credit for. You know, of course, the 110 special attack is your best attacking stat, but you can totally run a physical Houndoom. You know, you got Crunch, you've got Flame Charge, Fire Fang, you got Flare Blitz, you got Foul Play. I mean, that doesn't help as much, but Foul Play is always a nice thing to have. Like, there's some great physical moves here for Houndoom. Sucker Punch, Psychic Fangs, Trailblaze. And, of course, you know, look at the utility that Houndoom brings, too. Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, Pain Split, Destiny Bond. There's so many different ways that I can take this Houndoom, and I think that's what you need. You need versatility over everything when you're drafting one of these signatures, because you're bringing it to all your matches. You might as well not bring the same thing every time. But moving on from Houndoom, we get on to Landorus Therian, and if anyone knows competitive Pokemon, I don't think I need to introduce this thing. Top tier, ground flying, does it all. Obviously, you know, the Intimidate user, immunity to ground, but more importantly, this thing hits like a truck. 145 base attack, 105 special attack if I want to run a special set. You know, got the Earthquakes, you just spam Earthquake. Spam Earthquake, you're going to kill a lot. You know, you got Knockoff. You got Outrage if you really want to. Non-stab Dragon coverage, got to be my favorite. U-turn for the switch. One thing I love about this team is that a lot of the Pokemon on this team can switch out. And, that is really important, especially with Pokemon like Landorus. If I can just send in Landorus, get that Intimidate off on a threatening physical Pokemon, and then you turn out into Houndoom, and then get that Houndoom in to get a Will-O-Wisp off, that can really neutralize those physical threats really quickly. Plus, you gotta be worried about Landorus, because Landorus has got Swords Dance, it's got good utility moves, Stealth Rock. You need some sort of hazards, and I'll be honest, this team's weak on hazards, so I'm glad that I have Landorus here to just have that threat of Stealth Rocks. And even then, and as I said earlier, special attacking Landorus. It's not probably the greatest option all the time, but I mean, come on. Sludge Wave, Sludge Bomb, Sandsear Storm, Scorching Sand, Psychic. There's a lot of options here. There's a lot of different options here. Weather Ball, as I said, if we're running Sun, well, suddenly a Weather Ball turning into Fire off of 105 special attack stat, suddenly Landorus can be threatening those Ice switch-ins. There's a lot of options here, and even looking back into here, you have Sand Tomb for trapping, you could run a secondary sort of maybe a defensive weather in case another weather team comes up against us. Rock Tomb to slow down. I mean, I don't think I need to explain this to you guys. It's Landorus. Landorus theory, it's always going to be good. Moving on to Pokemon number 3, Goldango. This was honestly, when I decided I'm going Houndoom, this was the first Pokemon I thought about. Because Houndoom's got that fire immunity. And when you have that fire immunity, when you have that dark type to be resistant and really good against ghost types, well, what better Pokemon to have as a thing to mesh off of the Houndoom than Goldango? Steel Ghost type, this thing is going to mess people up. Good as Gold is busted. I don't want to hear anything on it. Good as Gold is absolutely busted. I mean, I could just click Make It Rain all the time. If they send in a fire type to take the Make It Rain, alright, cool. Try using a fire type on me. I'm going to just send out Houndoom. And then suddenly you got a whole new problem, because now I've got boosted fire moves, which could possibly be in the sun. I got D-Gleam in here, Focus Blast, yeah, Power Gem. Goldango is a monster on the special side. He's bulky as hell, which you wouldn't even think about, seeing as, he's not fast, but 87 with dual 90s in the defensive stats, that's good. Goldango's ridiculous. I mean, Goldango is just ridiculous. I was surprised it wasn't, top tier. This only was 17 points out of when the top tiers were 19 points. This thing is gross, and can't wait to wreck someone's day with it. Now next, I said I was doing a Sun team, and this is how the Sun team's gonna be built through. Walking Wake. Man. When I drafted Houndoom, I wasn't planning on a Sun team, and then I was like, you know what, I can give Houndoom some Sun. And then I was like, if I'm gonna give Houndoom some Sun, I might as well pick up, in my opinion, probably the best Sun abuser in the entire game. In terms of what we could draft, this thing has got to be the best Sun abuser. Water Dragon is one of, if not the best types. You're weak to Fairy, and you're weak to Freeze Dry. Nothing else, really. That's all you're weak to. Water Dragon is such a good type. And on top of that, Photosynthesis boosting your best stat, special attack 125, speed 109. This thing is going to go crazy. Not to mention, moves are insane too. Hey, you want a water type move that does 1.5 times damage in Sunny Day? Well, here you go. That's just great. It makes it so that Flamethrower, Hydro Steam, both of them are going to be hitting like absolute trucks in the sun. And guess what? You can't even switch in, you can't switch in a grass type to tank Walking Wake's Water Stab, because as I said, Flamethrower right there. And you don't want to take a sun boosted Flamethrower. And on top of that, Weather Ball, even better in the sun. Even better than Flamethrower in the sun. There's so much amazing potential out of this core of this sun core of Houndoom, Goldango, Walking Wake, and as I said, Goldango, right? Go back to Goldango. He's you know, the big thing that people are going to target him with is going to be that fire weakness, especially if I'm running Sun. You know, you want to have those higher fire damages into Goldango. Well, I already have Houndoom who can have Flash Fire for that, you know, for that, like, immunity, but I also have Walking Wake. It's not an immunity, but four times resistant. I mean, nothing short of an overheat is going to do more than like 10% to this Walking Wake, and it's crazy. Like, you can come in, it's got the substitute option if I want. You know, you got all sorts of options in here. If you want to scroll down, again, another trapping mon if I really wanted to. This draft went so well in the top tiers with that Landorus, Walking Wake, Goldango, and of course, all of them work really well with the Houndoom. It's really something. I think this team is going to turn a lot of heads as an offensive core. And moving on of our offensive core, Lilligant. Hisuian Lilligant is incredibly powerful. It was insane how low I got this thing. Now, granted, you know, it's only got 75, 70. It's not that bulky. It's only got 105 attack, 105 speed. It's not the fastest. It's not the most hard hitting. Doesn't matter how fast you are when suddenly you got chlorophyll. All I'm saying, chlorophyll is insane. It makes this Pokemon outspeed everything. On top of that, if I really don't worry about the speed, if I'm worried about like Willows, if I'm worried about Will-O-Wisp or, you know, Thunderwaves, I could run Leaf Guard. People don't think about Leaf Guard at all because you know, it's a worse ability than Chlorophyll in most situations. But in a draft league, you can look and see if you really need that extra speed. And if you don't need that extra speed on Lilligant, Leaf Guard is a great way to protect your damage. And you know, look at some of the moves this thing's got. First of all, Grass Fighting. Granted, it's not great against flying types, of course. But Grass Fighting is actually a much better offensive type than people really think about. Because Fighting is obviously one of the best physical offensive types. You go Axe Kick, Close Combat, really depends on how risky you want to be. But you know, you got Petal Blizzard, Poison Jab, Solar Blade. Solar Blade is great to have on this team because, like, you know, you go for your Solar Beams all the time, but obviously you can't go for Solar Beams on Lilligant because Lilligant's a physical attacker. Solar Blade is one of the most, like, forgotten about yet such really powerful move from Sun and Moon, and that's gonna damn it. That's just gonna, the damage on this team is insane. And I didn't even mention Victory Dance. Yes. How do we take a Pokemon that already has 105 attack and 105 speed and make it even better? Yes. Let's just give them Physical Quiver Dance. You know, that's fair. That's fair. This team is ridiculous. You get Triple Axle, Ice Spinner if you want to be safer about it. Great ice coverage. Poison Jab for those fairy types. Acrobatics if you want to run, you could run berries. You could run berries, and suddenly acrobatics is like you could just run no item. If you really want to just hit those quick acrobatics, you can just run no item. If you really, you know, Defog user, great for hazard control. As I said, don't have a lot of hazards on this team, so I really don't care about I don't care about the difference between Defog and Rapid Spin too much on this team because, honestly, besides rocks, I don't have much hazards on this team. So, really, Defog is just as good as thing. And also, if there's rocks on the field, guess what? Lilligant takes no damage to rocks. I believe it's 4 times resistant to rocks. So, Defog, easy Defog user here. So many good options here. Stun Spore, you know, if you have Stun Spore and Sleep Powder on there, you can do that. You can do Rest Talk Sets, Leech Seed. There's so much you can do with Lilligant. And as a Sun Core, this is insane. Moving on now, we got Enamorous Therian. I mean, come on. I needed a Fairy type. I've been having a great draft so far. Honestly, I'm not really sure about Enamorous Therian. I'm trying it out. Stats look great. Speed looks terrible, but that's fine. You always need like a low speed tier mon in case, you know, someone's running Trick Room out of nowhere. But still, it's like, the thing about Enamorous Therian is I've never tried it. And I've never tried Enamorous either. I want to use that Contrary mon sometime, but I've just never found the time to get it. It's usually a top draft pick I've seen. But, I mean, for a Fairy type, you can do a lot worse than Enamorous. Like, being immune to Sandstorm, Powder moves, Effect Spore, that's always nice. That's, you know, it's not an amazing ability overcoat, but it's just a good ability. just saves me the problem of, like, I don't know, just Pokemon stun sporing. I know someone, I believe, has a Terra Vivian signature, and with Vivian I can see them definitely trying to spread like stun spores and stuff, so that's always nice. But more importantly, you know, it's a tank that can hit hard. And if you don't find a lot of these in draft, a lot of times, you know, you have your tanks and then you have your damage dealers. They're not the same Pokemon usually. I've seen that with a lot of times, and I don't like drafting just the tanks, you know? Like, I would probably never draft Blissey or Chansey. Those are just not fun for me because they kind of lock me into a situation where I have to be careful how I tank. And that's not how a tank really should be played. I feel like this is how a tank should be really played. You know, you get this attack stat of 115, special attack of 135, defensive 110, special defense of 100. This is a assault vest mon, alright? You just run 4 attacks, run that assault vest, nothing can hit you on the special side, and you just roll them. You know, that's the sort of Pokemon we're dealing with here. It's got Tailwind, which obviously it can only really benefit of so much, but it's still a great support move. Got Iron Defense on here. Got Agility, again, not super important. Calm Mind's gonna be really nice for a setup option. Like, this thing is going to take more hits than most of my other Pokemon, and it's also going to dish out more hits than the other Pokemon. Like, and this is the thing, you don't really even need the speed. I mean, speed is always nice, but it's fine to be slow when you're not gonna die from much. You know, and plus, look, Weather Ball. Hey, look, there's another 100 power fire move in the sun. You know, Mystical Fire if you're not running Sun, and you can lower that special attack. Moonblast, Extra Sensory, Earth Power, Draining Kiss, Focus Blast if you really want to go for that. Sludge Bomb. There's so much here. If I really wanted to be funny, I could go with Misty Explosion, I guess. You know, if I really wanted to. But honestly, I'm really excited to see how Namorous Therian goes, because I have really not seen it used at all, and I'm looking for a new experience here, so this should be great. Now, moving on. There you go. There's your Sunsetter. A lot of people think the premier Sunsetter is Torkoal, and I understand Torkoal is bulky. Torkoal is very much like a Namorous Therian in that situation. You know, slow, bulky, has a lot of special attack, can erupt. You know, Eruption's always nice, but I've honestly always preferred Ninetales. Ninetales is not the best attacker. Okay special defense. You know, similar special defense HP spread to Enamorous, not as good on defensives, not as good on physical defense. But, like, the thing I like about Ninetales is that it's fast. It's faster than people think. And it's a great support mon. Like, you have, you know, you're already setting the sun there, and the sun's already nice. But in here, you also get that Will-O-Wisp. The fast Will-O-Wisp is always nice. You get Roar. You know, you get Memento. I could see myself switching into Ninetales, setting that sun, Mementoing out from a big threat to try to get that sun rolling. You know, Ninetales is a great support mon, and don't get me wrong, when you're in sun, you still do damage. Overheat still hits for a lot. You know, Weather Ball still hits for a lot. Energy Ball still hits good against especially water ground types. You can see some water ground types get absolutely rolled by it. And, you know, if you really want to be mean, go with Imprison or Hypnosis. That stuff is actually really useful, and it's stuff that people really don't think about a lot of times. You know, I like Ninetales more than Torkoal, and it's cheaper. This is the other thing. You gotta realize when you're trying to budget, do I really want to spend, when I'm trying to build a Suncore, do I want to spend the extra points on a Sunsetter who does more damage and a little more bulky? Or do I want to spend that on a better, you know, on a better Sun Abuser? Because if I picked up Torkoal, I probably can't pick up Lilligant. Or if I pick up Torkoal, I gotta pick up something less than Walking Wake. Maybe I gotta pick up like Ogerpon Wellspring, which Ogerpon Wellspring's good, it's not Walking Wake though. So with the price range and the support ability, I just prefer Ninetales a lot of the time. And so decided to go with Ninetales here as my Sunsetter. Coming next, this is another one. Has anyone used Manectric Mega? I haven't seen many people use Mega Manectric. And honestly, don't know how it's gonna do. This one's a bit of a shot in the dark, but I didn't have a lot of points to go get a top tier Mega. You know, obviously I was spending all my points on that Sun Core and onto Landorus and Goldango, getting that great core, and I still love that core. But when it comes down to a Mega, I mean, I didn't need to draft a Mega, but I always like to have a Mega. And, you know, Mega Manectric is honestly looking pretty good. You know, that Intimidate ability that he gets after Mega Evolving, you know, Lightning Rod for that immunity. Granted, it's electric, it's not the best immunity, but, like, still, you know, getting that special attack boost on a switch in from an electric type, and then immediately intimidating. And guess what? You remember how I was talking about Landorus Intimidate U-turns? Well, guess what? This thing has Volt Switch. So if I really wanted to, there's a nice little core there between, you know, you got your core between that Landorus Therian over here with the Intimidate U-turn, and you can really just shut down someone by just back and forth. U-turn, Volt Switch, U-turn, Volt Switch, lowering that attack every time, and it's so good. And, you know, on top of that, I needed a high speed tier. A lot of these Pokemon have been middling speed, some have been a little higher tier speed, and, you know, Enamorus low tier speed, but, like, you know, you kind of need that burner over the top just to make people prep for it. If you don't have a good speed tier, you're not going to get anyone putting, like, you're going to get people who are going to be running Adamant, not Jolly. You're going to get people who are running Modest. You're going to get people not putting their stuff into speed and instead putting it into defenses. And suddenly, you may not be hitting the way you thought it would. So, always good to keep the other teams honest by having a real burner, and Manectric Mega is really good because you're going to have to try to outspeed this thing sometimes, because 135 in both special attack and speed is nothing to scoff at. Like, this thing will hit you hard before you can move. It's got Overheat, it's got Thunder and Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Signal Beam, like, it's got some moves. Not to mention, check this out, Toxic, Thunder Wave. Even if you're not hitting you, I can get out in front of you and do something that'll mess up your Mon, and you don't want to do that. So this is a keep him honest sort of pick. Eerie Impulse to shut them down like that. Like, there's a lot of good options. And if a team doesn't want to do it, guess what? They got to worry about Electro Ball. Electro Ball is going to hit like a truck if there's going to be a lot of slow Mons on the other team. Next, Grafaiai. Thing about draft, you need a grounded poison type. It's an old way of thinking. I mean, granted, not as much anymore because you have heavy duty boots and stuff, and you have clearing options. I just like having the ability to just clear on switch in for Toxic Spikes, even though Toxic Spikes don't get used a ton, but against the Glamora team, that's going to be really nice. But also, I mean, Grafaiai, Prankstermon. I know when I was looking for this grounded poison type, I was like, hang on, this thing is actually pretty dang good. It's 110 speed set, so it's already fast, but for Prankster, obviously you're going to move first most of the time. 95 attacks, nothing to scoff at, especially when you can throw off like gunk shots and knockoffs. Like, that's not nothing. But really, the big thing here is, with Prankster, you can do a lot of fun stuff. Prankster switcheroo. I can switch on some specs onto a physical attacker, or, you know, band onto a special attacker. Taunt, Prankster Toxic. Like, this stuff is really useful. Prankster Parting Shot. Grafaiai does not need to sit in front of any attacks it doesn't want to, because it could just Prankster Parting Shot, and there's no way to revenge kill it, in a way. Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, if you want to go off the special attack, which is 80, it's not great, but it's not terrible. You know, U-turn if you want to do a damage when you're switching, which can help against dark type teams, because I believe Prankster would cause Parting Shot to fail. But here's what's also really interesting to me. Doodle. Now, I know it's weird. Why would I want to get rid of Prankster? But like, Doodle is, I don't know how often I'll use it, but it's a unique move. I don't think anyone else will really expect it. And honestly, I could see where this works. I mean, I know if I could send this in against Heatran. If I send it in against Heatran and Doodle for a Flash Fire, that could help. Granted, it could use an Earth Power, and then I'd be in trouble. But like, there are ways for Doodle to come in and do something, and I don't know how often I'll use it, but it's interesting. And also, pranks are copycat. I don't know. Again, these are another niche moves. There's a reason they're usually useless, but these are things I could see myself bringing, and I just love having the option to bring this stuff. Prankster Sunny Day. I can set Sun with this thing manually if Ninetales is gone, or if I can't bring Ninetales to the Magic for whatever reason. And then I got Regice. No ice types. In fact, I had a pretty big ice weakness on this team. Not a huge ice weakness, you know, I can switch another Pokemon, but like Lilligant and Landorus, both not really faring well for ice. When you're talking freeze dry, you can get rid of Walking Wake pretty easily with a freeze dry. So I was like, I want an ice type who can tank that stuff. And when I was looking, I was like, oh, there we go. Yeah, I think 200 special defense will be enough. 200 will be enough, I think. I mean, if you bring in a physical ice type, you'll probably still tank a little bit of that. 80 HP, you know, 100 defense. Regice will still take some of that, but the 200 special defense, like, it's a good mon for a low tier pick. Clear Body, Ice Body's hardly ever going to get used, let's be honest here, because I don't think I have anyone in the league who's running Snow. It's a shame, really, but yeah, honestly, this is a nice low tier pick. It's not fast. I know that. It's a bulky mon. And as I said, I don't usually like grabbing tanks that can't do damage, but with the special side, like, you know, Ice Beam's going to do something. It's going to provide pressure. And on top of that, like, you've got your Flash Cannon, you've got your Focus Blast. It's not a great offensive mon, but, like, this is a good Pokemon. And for 5 points, which is where I was at, honestly, I loved this pick as a way to get an Ice type on this team. And finally, my one returning member from my championship squad, mainly because I got so impressed with this, Turtonator. Not a lot of people know about Turtonator. Literally, I swear, nobody uses Turtonator. Holy crap, this thing tanks hits. Like, in my playoff series, this was, I would have to say, if anything, Turtonator, my surprise MVP on my playoff team last year. Playoff MVP for sure. This thing tanks. I'm pretty sure I took a Draco. I'm pretty sure I took a Draco off of like a Walking Wake with Turtonator. It's insane. Like, you can run so much bulk into it. 252 here, 252 here, and check it out. That doesn't even hurt your offenses that much. Body press still exists. And you know what? With body press, off of a 135 defense stat that's maxed out, you're not going to take any damage, and you're going to deal that damage back in return. And guess what? What are they going to use against you? The only real weaknesses you've got here are Dragon and Ground. And I guess Rock. Dragon, Ground, Rock. But, you know, Fairy, not super effective on you. Fire type coming in clutch. Water, not super effective. Dragon type coming in clutch. This thing has so much bulk. On top of that, this thing has so much utility too. Check it out. Will-O-Wisp, Taunt. Yes, it's a slow taunt, but still, you know, it's got Rapid Spin. It's got Iron Defense if you really want to set up on the bulky side. You know, it's got good special attack, honestly. 91 special attack's pretty good. And when you're dropping Dracos, that's pretty good. And when you can run a mixed attack, too. Like, if you're running Body Press, you can run Body Press and Draco, and then you can drop Draco, get half special attack, and you're still dealing tons of damage with Body Press. You know, on top of that, you got Overheat, of course. You know, you got Shell Smash if you really want to surprise them. You know, keep them honest and all that. Like, the only thing that honestly, this is the only thing, is that I wish there was more opportunities to use Shell Trap. Because Shell Trap on outside seems like, oh, it's a niche move, but it could have some really fun use. But the caveat of it having to take physical damage before moving makes it really difficult to use. But I feel like now that I'm going to be using Turtonator more, there's a chance I bring Shell Trap to, if I'm like facing off against a particularly, like, you know, if I'm facing off against a particularly bulky team, bulky or physically heavy team, then I could totally bring Shell Trap. In fact, I could totally see a world in which I switch in Turtonator to tank physical attackers, and then when they try to U-turn out or whatever, I'm not exactly sure how this works, but like, if I use Shell Trap on a U-turn, I'm pretty sure I hit whatever comes in for big damage with that 150 power. So there's options for that as well. And of course, now that I'm running Sun, this gets boosted a lot more. I was running Turtonator and Hail, you know, well, not Hail, Snow, I guess now. But like I was running it in Snow, so obviously I wasn't getting boost. Suddenly, an overheat out of Turtonator in the Sun, suddenly a 91 special attack stat looks a lot better. Like, I don't know. It's going to be a step up for me this year because, you know, last year I was in lowest division, Division 4, the Origin Division, and I ended up winning that and, you know, took down some really tough opponents. Shout out to Toughest Tangerine and Backpack Boy. Both of them brought up great battles in the playoffs. Toughest Tangerine, I believe they went undefeated, had like an insane, they had some sort of insane differential, like 40 or something, and I'll be honest, like, I got a little lucky there that I had, you know, Gyarados able to get those Dragon Dances up and really be able to sweep like that, because that game was a lot closer than the final score said. But, you know, now I'm moving up, you know, while I'm facing off against tough opponents like Backpack Boy, Toughest Tangerine and stuff, like, there's also, that was the new division. That was where, you know, the first timers go. Now I'm into Division 3, and if you look at, look here, all of these players are good. I remember facing off against Banny 2005, faced off against him like a couple seasons back. I believe that guy got moved up because he was so good that he just dominated the starter division, you know? Mike Haley, he's, you know, he runs his own draft league. Greg CeeLo, great player. Scary Monsters Over Heaven, big player in the thing. Deadpans, great player. All of the players in this division are tough. So I really don't know how well I'm going to do, but I'm coming off the momentum of the last season win. I got a great team behind me. I think this will be a great season in the PWC.